The upper classes had dominated Indian politics for a long time. Congress Party, Indira Gandhi, the Gandhi legacy, all very much from the upper classes. Is this the political pendulum swinging to those who haven't been represented in Indian society, with perhaps more conservative and more Hindu nationalistic views on the right?
So the one thing that's true, even for someone like me who's a deep critic of Hindu nationalism and the way it manifests itself in Indian politics, is that there are no good guys in Indian politics on this particular dimension. The Congress Party played with fire for lots of decades prior to the BJP coming to power. They were willing to indulge identity politics when it suited them. They did this to great devastation in the Punjab with the Khalistan and the Sikh movement. They did it, the entire Ram Temple debate was very much opened by completely incompetent and I think short-sighted politicking on the part of Congress leaders. So the notion that Hindu nationalism is solely the fault of the BJP is, I think, unfair. This has very much been a constant go-to on the part of some politicians over time, including the Congress
So you
Party.
think it's the failure of the political
I think the failure of the political class has been to mount a robust defense of what secularism in the Indian context means. Why is secularism important for democracy? Why isn't it simply lip service? Why isn't it simply vote bank politics, but actually an intellectual articulation of why this is the way in which you keep the country together? So while Dr. Swamy might say that national integration is important, the notion that the way in which India becomes a stronger country is to elide the regional, linguistic, religious differences of the country strikes me as exactly the wrong instinct. I think India is a country that has always been unity in diversity. We embrace all those differences, not try and impose a particular form of majoritarianism.
Interesting. Sadanand, the BJP has been accused of sort of being a cover for more right-wing elements in Indian politics, an offshoot of the RSS party. Can you just sort of explain that and what's behind it?
Let me quickly go back to this, question of caste. I think that, one thing on which, Dr. Swamy, where I agree with him, is that there has been a sort of revolution in terms of the voter base of the BJP. This is a party which Irfan correctly points out, which was traditionally a party that was dominated by the upper caste. But if you look at the 2014 election, for example, the BJP won a plurality of the votes, or won more votes than anybody else, across every category of Hindu society, from the upper caste from across the spectrum. So it has changed and it has evolved, and right now, today in 2017, manifests a much less of an upper caste character than it did 10 years ago.
Did it do that by going right?
It did that by many, I don't know. I don't think that's what did it. I think that there was a crisis of confidence in the Congress Party. I think you had the rise of Mr. Modi, who was an extremely charismatic leader. And you did have grassroots work by organizations like the RSS that have tried to get rid of some of the differences among castes and unify the Hindu elements of society, which is the 80%. So that's what happened. Now, the relationship between the BJP and the RSS is very old. The BJP was born out of the RSS. An
offshoot.
It's an offshoot of the RSS. The RSS is not a political party.
Now, it's worth mentioning to our viewers, the RSS was a right-wing Hindu nationalist party that was actually banned.
It's been banned on two occasions.
Why was that?
So once it was banned following the assassination of Gandhi in 1948. And at the actually three times. And it was banned during the emergency when there was a suspension of democracy.
Under Indira Gandhi?
And again by the Congress, I believe after the Babri Masjid, which was a 16th century mosque, which the Hindu nationalists say was built on the site of a temple sacred to Hindus, was brought down. So it's had this sort of ongoing problems. Now, they would say that these problems have been with the left of center Congress government. So it's an ideological battle. The left of center Congress would say that, well, this is because the RSS deserved to be banned, but that's a sort of different and more complex debate. But the long and the short of it for your viewers is that the BJP is an offshoot of the RSS, and they're not apologetic about it. That is the ideology that they follow. Though they do say that they are distinct because they're a political party. as opposed to the RSS, which is a grassroots organization.
Dr. Swamy, do you want to respond to that? Because you were the president of the Janata Party that allied with the BJP. Is the BJP an offshoot of RSS, this right-wing Hindu nationalist party that had been banned for several times? And is that dangerous for Indian democracy?
Well, first of all, it is banned all 3 times by the Congress party. And it seems to have got stronger with each ban. It bears no odium in the public domain for having been banned, because the people felt that these bans are all bogus. They had nothing to do with Mahatma Gandhi's murder, yet they were banned. They were fighting for democracy and they were banned. And that, of course, went in favor of the RSS. And the Babri Masjid also, the RSS had nothing to do with the demolition of the Babri Masjid, and yet it was banned. So the public sympathy has grown with every ban, and I think we have come faster to power thanks to these bans, actually. So there's no odium attached to having been banned.
Obviously, Irfan, do you want to respond to that? Not ban, you know, it was Congress that banned this party, that it didn't incite Hindu nationalism during difficult times in India's history, and that the BJP doesn't reflect those ideas.
Yeah, I can't, none of those can, I think, merit serious consideration, none of those claims.
Why?
The RSS is the intellectual grounding of Hindu nationalism as we understand it in India today. I think it's fair to say that the BJP and the RSS operate independently of each other, which is not to say that the BJP is necessarily autonomous of the RSS as influence, but I think a lot of the major leadership of the BJP sees in the RSS and the teachings of RSS leaders the way that they have come to understand India and what their vision for India is. Mr. Modi himself was raised very much in RSS schools and a culture of that. It is a culture of service. It is a culture of service to community, and I think Sadanand is absolutely right in that the Dalit, the inroads into the lower caste communities,
Dalit, the untouchable caste,
so previously untouchable,
yes.
Has been because the RSS has done in villages and slums of India that have been neglected by the state, taken over the provision of social services that poor people rely on in a great way. So one can criticize and worry about some of the ideology while still acknowledging the service and the role that the society has played. But the idea that the RSS has not at times merited odium, to use Dr. Swamy's phrase, is problematic. I mean, the reason that they were banned after the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the Indian nation, is because the leaders of the RSS were seen as inciting that assassination. Even today, there are now statues being built for the assassin of Mahatma Gandhi. This is 70 years after, not quite 70 years after that assassination of one of the greatest men to have lived, and definitely one of the person we recognize as father nation, and they built statues for his assassin, right? Arguing, in fact, that Gandhi betrayed India, and there's a lot of arguments made by the conspiracy theorists whether this is sort of seen as being...
Yes, the historical debate is
right, a stooge about partition and all of that sort of thing, but the idea that this is not, in fact, a party that has been or a group that at times has had elements within it that could arguably have been seen as being seditious, as being actually anti-government, anti-nation, I think is a bit difficult for me to fathom.
Sadanand, can we widen it out a little bit? Here is a man who came from nothing against the cosmopolitan elites. He uses social media to talk directly to the people. I'm describing Prime Minister Modi here, but I could be describing Donald Trump. I could be describing other politicians in Europe and elsewhere. And he also talks about a sort of capitalism that isn't the sort of liberal economic order that we're used to in the post-Cold War, but provides welfare for those who perhaps missed out on the first economic boom, to try and bring the rest of society up as well. These are popular ideas both in Asia, Europe, and America right now. Is Modi part of a global wave, or is Modi a uniquely Indian phenomenon?
You can always find some parallels, but I would say that Modi is an Indian phenomenon.
Why?
And I think the comparisons with Trump, though what you point to are are partly true, but they're also greatly overblown. Modi belongs to a very highly disciplined and structured organization. He's been a party worker. He has risen up the ranks, first of the RSS and of the BJP.
So he didn't come from nowhere?
He did not. He's a man who is part of an organizational machine who has, through his own merit and hard work and political skills, risen to the very top. This is not one of those sort of, outside populists who suddenly comes in to shake up the system. It's certainly true that he's been a disruptive force in Indian politics, but it's wrong to ascribe to him the kind of outsider status we see with someone like, say, Donald Trump.
Dr. Swamy, I'm going to give you the last word because you're in New Delhi, the centre of Indian government. What would you like to say to the rest of the world who says that there is a drift to the right and Hindu nationalism with Prime Minister Modi? Have the critics got it wrong? What should we be looking at?
We are bound by the Constitution, and we have not violated any of the clauses of the Constitution, nor we have been prosecuted by anybody for that violation of the Constitution. And the Constitution is a secular democratic, it is for a secular democratic society, and we are committed to that. Within that framework, we have a right to express opinions. We have a right to make people give up their rigid adherence to the castes and unite as Hindus, because that's a good political electoral strategy. That the past, the Congress was managed to split the Hindus and unite the minorities. And we are doing exactly the opposite. Unite the Hindus and split the minorities.
So politics as usual in India and elsewhere as well. Thank you so much for Dr. Swamy in New Delhi and our two guests in the studio as well. That's all we have time for this edition of The Heat. But as you know, the conversation continues online. Join us on CGTN America's Facebook page to comment on this or any other show, or chat with us on Twitter at CGTN America. I'm Nathan King in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much.